I realize that full self-driving beta videos are all the rage right now, and for good reason. It's really neat to see the progress that they're making on fully autonomous driving. But the rest of us are left with standard full self-driving or enhanced autopilot or just standard autopilot, depending upon what level of the software you have. And they're actually making grounds on improvements for the rest of us as well. First thing I want to point out is this is a 360 video. More technically, it is spherical. So you'll be able to pan around and see not only what I see on the screen by looking down towards where the hood is in the car, but you can pause the video at any time and look at what the animations show and then see what the relation of this vehicle is to the cars around me. One of the things to point out is spherical lenses exaggerate differences in distances. So if something is 2 times the distance of another object, it'll kind of look like it's 4 times away. So keep that in mind. If I say something is really close to me, like another car, it really is in real life, even if it doesn't look that way in spherical video. But I think this is a very fun way of giving people a chance to see what I see as the driver, in addition to seeing what the car sees. This test loop starts by driving down Glenwood Avenue into downtown Raleigh, and you'll see that there are a lot of intersections that kind of give autopilot fits and starts. It proceeded through this intersection just fine following the car in front of me, but it couldn't decide whether or not I needed to acknowledge the intersection before proceeding. Again, the stoplight control, the traffic control warning comes up and disappears. It's green. That car is starting to get pretty far away from me, but I'm still seeing the request for manual confirmation pop up repeatedly, even though I'm following a car. I'm clearly following a car. One of the tasks that Autopilot has greatly improved in the 2 years that I've had this car is stopping for stopped traffic. Oh my gosh. When we first got this car, sometimes it was really scary. And I would have to take over because clearly Autopilot was not going to stop for stopped cars. Even when it would stop, it would stop, then accelerate, then stop, then accelerate, like at stopped cars. But lately, it has been really good for stopping for stopped cars without being rough or scary in the process. It's not necessarily as efficient as I would be doing as a human driver, because a human driver who wants to be sparing on the battery would want to use a lot more regen. Autopilot definitely uses a lot more friction brakes in how it decides when to stop. We're coming up on the 5 Points intersection. That's actually the name because it's a crazy intersection of a number of roads. But this has a lane marker through the middle all the way through the intersection. So it doesn't actually typically have a problem going through that intersection. Okay, now I'm going to get right. So cars that want to drive faster than me can get past me. Although I'm not sure traffic in the left lane is going to be going the speed limit or not. So this says 30 miles an hour, but it is 35 miles an hour. I'm going to have to see what it picked up in the video that changed that to 30 miles an hour. Luckily, I took over because that truck was getting a little close for comfort. But it just saw the actual 35 mile an hour speed limit right there and it reset. This intersection that we're coming up on actually does a pretty severe shift to the left. And typically, Autopilot will just drive straight through and basically change lanes from the left lane to the right lane as it goes through the intersection. I have yet to have success with this. It's doing better. You saw that construction cone there. That's because human drivers hit the curb there, and earlier iterations of Autopilot would come a little bit close to it, but that was really good. Okay, here we go. We're going to go straight, and the intersection is going to shift to the left, and nope, it just went straight on through and changed lanes. And I only let it do that because I saw that there were no cars around me and it was safe to see what would happen. Here's St. Mary's on the right. You'll be able to spin around and see how beautiful that campus is. One of the things that I noticed with this update, it's probably a map update, the speed limit is correct. It had been forcing 25 miles an hour as a speed limit for that section right there after turning onto Hillsborough, but it is 35 miles an hour. Hillsborough in this section has a lot of traffic circles. I already know that Autopilot software, even full self-driving software, has traffic circle decisions turned off. So it's just going to stop. If you see a successful navigation of a traffic circle, it turns out that it's just navigation seeing the lane through the traffic circle. It doesn't see it as a traffic circle. Here's another lane change. Okay, I had to take over because it was being a little bit too aggressive and getting left. I think if that oncoming car weren't there, everything would have been successful, but it just didn't make sense for me to allow it to get that close to an oncoming car, either for me or that car. No way would I have felt comfortable being in that other car, just letting it continue. Oh, come on. I hate that. Oh, he's jaywalking. I hate when it says the auto steer is available, but it cuts out before you have a chance to engage it. At least this is really consistent with this update. Again, I don't know if it's the full self-driving non-beta software or a map update that I got, but it is now consistently warning of upcoming traffic circles, and the red line seems to be accurately portrayed in animation. Of course, it's not red because I'm driving. It's still a little jumpy for cars that are slowing to turn out of your path. It's getting better, but it's still slowing a lot more than is necessary. That was a little slow to get started. I think that when there's a car that it's following, it will be more aggressive with acceleration through an intersection after being stopped. But if you're first, it's a little bit more tentative. Okay, there we go. On a curve, that was a little rough. It's still pumping brakes for the traffic that stopped in front of me. Was it safe? Well, kind of. If there was a car close behind me, it might have caused a problem. If there were issues with traction, it might have caused the problem. It certainly wasn't comfortable. Navigate to target Briar Creek. That's not the route we're going to follow. When we get here, I'm going to turn off Navigate on Autopilot and drive past that exit because I want to see how this does on the interchange between 40 and 540. Okay, so already it's signaling an unnecessary lane change. Yeah, I'm gonna switch back because that's getting in the way of people who are driving faster than the speed limit, and it's actually that's just annoying for it to get over and get in the passing lane when it's not needed. I let it go because every now and then Navigate on Autopilot will signal that it's going to do a lane change and then it doesn't do it. So I wanted to see if it would, and it was safe to do so, but I got out of that lane pretty fast. This lane turns into an exit lane. You could even see it by the sign. And so I would be getting over right now. Here we go. That's good. It's clear to do so. Navigate on Autopilot is still waiting 6 clicks of a turn signal before making a lane change. I don't understand why it does that for a Navigate on Autopilot lane change versus an auto lane change that you manually do. Maybe it's a regulatory issue, but I think it confuses other drivers, and anyone who drives in any kind of urban or suburban traffic knows that if there's an opening and you turn your turn signal on and you don't immediately go into that opening, someone will accelerate to cut you off because you took too long to enter. And 6 clicks of the turn signal before entering a space definitely invites that kind of behavior from other drivers. I don't think we're going to see that today because this part of the drive, it's not that trafficy. We've got cars that are going to be merging on the right. Let's see how it handles that. All right, I'm getting over. Yeah. So I know right now a lot of people are going to be telling me about the law, and the law allows me to just sit there and stuff those people because they weren't accelerating fast enough or whatever. I don't care what the law says. You drive like that and you increase the chance that you're going to be in an accident. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Following the law is not necessarily the safest thing to do. Oh, there are people up there waving with Santa hats on and stuff. Okay, turn around and look behind and you'll see them waving at the other lane. That's very fun. So far, so good. We're going to have some vehicles merging from the right. And then I think we need to shift one lane over. Oh, no. This traffic pattern changes constantly. But the problem with the construction right here is that barrier goes right up to the last minute to be able to take the exit. And Navigate on Autopilot has failed every time coming through here, getting over on its own. It'll be interesting to see if it succeeds with this update. It really should be one lane over, but it doesn't exist right now. And here's where we need to take the exit. Oop. Okay, so it started and then it couldn't decide to get all the way over. I'm glad there wasn't a firm barrier there. The fact that there wasn't was the reason why I was just letting it do its thing. But it still needs work for those kinds of edge cases for sure. Now we're going to see if it merges with traffic before I run out of room. Even the last update, yay! That's fantastic. This is definitely an area where I see 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because it might make an improvement and Navigate on Autopilot in other areas, and then it will run me to the end of these without merging. Fantastic. And one more merge. That's great. That's what I was hoping it would do. Okay, I'm going to cancel this route and I'm going to change it to Navigate to Fred Anderson Toyota. In the past, Navigate on Autopilot has shifted me left when I've actually been needing to go right. And so I'd go left 1 lane, and then at the last minute, it would shift over 2 lanes. Let's see what it does this time. See, I've got traffic that's slow in front of me. I don't want to get around on its left. I either want to just sit right here or shift to the right 1 lane. So far, so good. I am on Mad Max, so just based on speed, it should be telling me to pass, but it's not right now. Great. This is fantastic. This is an improvement. It's wanting to sit right here so that it's in the correct lane to enter the exit lane.
1 mile, take exit 4A on the right onto US 70 East toward Raleigh.
Because if I'd moved left 1 lane, I could easily get cut off. Oh, it flashed blue there for a second. in this depiction of the test, you don't see my hand on the wheel. It's always on the wheel the whole time. And I'm applying torque the vast majority of the time. But what Autopilot is doing now, what Auto Steer is doing now, is instantaneously checking to see if there's torque, to make sure you're paying attention, you have your hand on the wheel at certain decision points. It doesn't matter if a half second before you had torque on the wheel. If you don't have torque on the wheel right when it wants it, it's going to flash the warning. That actually I noticed an update or two ago, and it's still doing that with this one. I actually think that's a change that makes a lot of sense.
In 1,000 feet, stay straight to take the US 70 west.
Okay, that worked just fine. Now, I was following another vehicle, so I have no idea how fast it would be taking this exit. And past updates, it would just be burning off of this exit at 70 miles an hour.
Take the US 70 ramp.
Navigate on Autopilot isn't in control anymore. I'm going to manually change one lane over. But we're going to let regular Autopilot stay in control. Okay, that was good. Okay, that, not so good. So I just had to, it should have just gone because there was a car in front of me following it and there was a green line, but it didn't go. And then I actually acknowledged the warning for the intersection. It still didn't go, so I had to hit the accelerator. I'm going to shift over one lane. And this is something that still bothers me. You'll see the speed limit drop down to 45, but the maximum set speed doesn't change the match. This is a head scratcher for me. I have offset programmed to 0 miles per hour, meaning I want my maximum set speed when I engage Autopilot to match the speed limit. I don't understand why that doesn't also make changes to the maximum set speed when the speed limit changes. It really should. Those things should be linked together. I want my max set speed to change with the speed limit sign, and I want it to match the offset that I have in the settings, which for me is 0 miles per hour. We're coming up on a left turn that the speed limit goes from 35 miles an hour on this section of the road to 45 miles an hour after a 90-degree left turn. Yes, this road actually makes a 90-degree left turn. It looks like it doesn't, but right here, that's a different spur. It's one of those weird navigation things. The speed limit sign is right at the corner. So in the past, Autopilot hasn't seen that speed limit sign in time to actually change the set speed. And then you get stuck with a maximum 40 mile an hour auto steer speed when the speed limit is 45. We'll see if they've fixed that. I'm going to take the turn like normal, and we'll see what Autopilot does. Oh, yay, fantastic. They did fix that. That is fantastic. It saw it, recognized it was for this direction of travel, and it programmed the speed limit sign and the max set speed. Yay, they fixed that. The real world fix for that, for me, has been to make that turn at a very 90-degree angle so that I was heading straight down this road when I passed that speed limit sign. Oh, that's a small thing for a lot of people, but that's a big thing for me because I make that turn multiple times daily. And now I'm not going to have to do that weird trick. I haven't noticed any changes in the pathfinding in the straighter sections of the road. It does seem that I've got a car parked on the side of the road up here with its flashers on, and it is slowing Well, that was okay. I think I could see that there was nobody in the car. It might have been that guy and that kid that were in the car. I don't know why they parked right there, because it was just off the road. But that was passable. It definitely didn't slam on the brakes, which is what would happen sometimes with a car in a position like that. This is the big test of pathfinding for different versions of Autopilot. This S turn up here, we'll see if it, number one, makes the turn, and number two, does sensible speed changes. Okay, it slowed down a little bit. It made the turn. It was a little close to the center line there. If cars were coming the other way, that wouldn't be comfortable necessarily. This is okay. Slowing in the middle of the turn. Okay, so that's a little rough. That's not so bad, but that's actually the best it's been through there in the past couple iterations. In the past, it's gone really slow, down to like 28 miles an hour. In the past, it's also just burned through there at 45 miles an hour, which is too fast. And then other times, the brake modulation has been really bad. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. We're coming up on an intersection that has a stop sign that's faced at an angle where Autopilot will sometimes see it as ours. You can see it right now. It almost looks like it. I got my foot on the throttle. See, it says stopping. Yeah, and there is a car behind me, so I hit the accelerator to override there. And it's really inconsistent whether or not it sees that as a stop sign for this road. And by that, I mean within an update. Sometimes I'll drive by and it'll do that. Sometimes it'll start to recognize it as a stop sign for this direction of travel, but it doesn't do anything. And sometimes it ignores it entirely. It's kind of at that angle and position where they don't have a hard line as to what Autopilot's going to do. Yay, Cyclist. Let's see what this does. I'm telling you right away that I am not going to put those cyclists at risk, but Autopilot's been pretty good about slowing for cyclists and giving them room. It's already slowing. It sees a cyclist, shows them an animation, and it's giving them plenty of room. And I'm going to pass them soon, but we've got this blind turn ahead of us. This is really good. I'm actually going to take this opportunity to get around them. Use a little bit of that Tesla muscle. That is absolutely the best that I've seen. It's not this update necessarily that Autopilot has been doing that with cyclists, but that was a problem for Autopilot for a long time. I even have a video that I never published where I coincidentally came up on my wife, and it wasn't even going to stop for her. We're coming up on this S-turn the other direction, and it's been pretty good about going through the first couple turns, but right at the end, there's a sharp left turn that it can be hit or miss, and that's an intentional pun. So far, so good. I don't want it slowing for this section, so this is good. I'm going to come up to where I want it to slow a little bit, and you can see it's braking just a bit, keeping the speed at 45. That's it. That's good. Making this right turn. Ooh, it's a little bobbly with the turn, but it's staying away from that center line, which I like, because cars coming the other way tend to hug it. And here is the trick. You could see that it wants to go off the road, but it didn't. And again, that was safe, but that would not be comfortable for a passenger wondering if they were going to go into that person's lawn. But I like the speed that it took that curve, because it needs to slow down some. Taking it at 45 miles an hour, is not safe or comfortable. It can pull it off, but it's just too fast. And then somewhere in the middle there of updates, it was slowing down to like 27, 28 miles an hour, which is just way too slow. I like this, no slowing at all. We don't need to. Okay, I'm taking over because I was going to be 3 wide with that car trying to cross the center line, as is natural to want to do for passing a parked car like that. Okay, we're coming up on a stop sign. I'm not sure I'm gonna let this do the stupidity that it normally does, because I do have a car behind me. So far, so good. And there it wants to turn into the oncoming lane. And so I'm going to take over. It just does not like to stop at this stop sign in the correct place. And I'm going to get out of everybody's way here. So that was a great test. Some incremental improvements that actually will make quite a difference in drive quality. They are edge cases that get tweaked, and it might not look like a lot on video, but when you hit intersection after intersection after intersection, that there's that small improvement in how the car finds its path through it, how efficient it is with the steering and the braking. It makes a big difference over the course of a drive. There's one other change that I don't think it came with 2020.48.10, but it is the first time I noticed it. Check it out. Ho, ho, ho. Look at that. It's a sleigh with presents. That's pretty cool. Let me see. I haven't checked the animations. Let's see what happens when you open the trunk. Or the front. Oh, it doesn't change the animation. And now I'm going to open the door. Yeah, that doesn't change. Well, I got to close everything. I'll be back. So yes, I would love to have full self-driving beta, but I don't. In spite of the fact that I have been Tesla's #1 referrer in the entire world by almost 25% over the #2 referral code for 2020. I'm number 6 in the world overall, but I got most of that in the past year. But Tesla doesn't care. They send me form letters just the same as everybody else. If you work for Tesla and can change that, that'd be pretty awesome. But I'm not counting on that whatsoever. Speaking of which, if you'd like to get a Tesla of your very own, be sure to use my Tesla Owners referral link. When you do, it'll get you free supercharging. Full details on the Tesla Owners referral program can be found at the link itself. Be sure to subscribe for more videos on the Tesla Autopilot software that the rest of us have. I really appreciate you watching The Tech of Tech, and I hope to see you next time.